俺に構うな。俺はもう騎士じゃない。
Hello, I'm Silveroxus, and this week's unit coming to Octopath Traveler COTC is Hujheb, the former knight turned Dark Protector, or otherwise known as Bo Richard, Bo Jesus, or anything else you want to call it, because he single-handedly, along now with Kilns, makes Bo a viable DPS option once again. So his role overview, he is a hunter, and his role is Bo support / Bo DPS. He is Bo Richard, Bo Particio, Bo Jesus, like any of the memes you want to call him, it's still true. He passively buffs front row based on a number of hunters that are in the party and can grant ult bow damage up, buff front row P attack and active bow damage up, and debuff bow resistance and more. He also can grant front row bow attacks a follow-up bow attack as well. His preferred weapons are a fortune bow for P attack. You can use Brilliant or Stalwart for damage cap if intending to fully support to have more damage cap for his ultimate and 2-hit bow skills instead. If he's there for DPS though, his DPS is a high hit count attack, so therefore you just want more P attack since you probably may not fully slam cap depending on your setup. His preferred accessories would be a buff extension A4 is extremely good on Hujheb to extend his ultimate damage cap and dead aim buffs. A debuff extension can also be very useful for his non-boost boost extending debuffs too. Otherwise, P attack up and damage cap up work well based on the weapon choice you used as well. For his passive skills, his first passive is after using a skill. If Hujheb has 0 wisdom arrows, then he gains 3 wisdom arrows. Wisdom arrows are stackable arrows that are consumed by certain skills and enhance skills based on how many are owned. At 6-star, he will gain 6 wisdom arrows instead of 3 from 0. His second passive is he grants the following effects to all front row allies based on the number of hunters in the party, including himself because he is a hunter. If there are 2+ hunters, gain 15% bow damage up, 3+ hunters, 15% physical attack up, and 4+ hunters, 20,000 damage cap up. And an important thing to note is for the 2+ and 3+ hunters, the 15% bow damage and P attack up, if you are also running him with Kilns, which you should be, that will basically self-cap to 30% bow damage up and physical attack up just by those two guys existing. So they work very well together. Spoilers for unit synergy. His TP passive is after a front row ally uses a bow attack or skill, that ally performs a 1-hit AoE bow, 1 times 100 power, with a low chance, with 25%, to inflict corrosion for 2 turns. And corrosion is just basically the physical version of burning or combustion, which is just take minor physical damage and lose 1 shield point at the end of the turn, and it can't break an enemy. So this basically just means that every single time that someone does a bow attack, they're doing an AoE follow-up. So keep that in mind. This follow-up attack is AoE, not single target. It's a bit weaker than Oswald's, but the gimmick is that Hujheb does not have to be in the front row. So if he happens to swap to the back row, all front row hunters are still going to get the follow-up attack. So that is very good. So you can keep that in mind for breaking shields. You're going to get an extra hit. It's going to hit all enemies of this multi-minutes in the battle, so keep that in mind for breaking enemies that you don't want to break. And then there's also the low chance of inflicting corrosion, which can also give you additional shield points shaved over time. So that is just, it all builds up to be very useful. So moving on to his skills. His base kit is a 1-hit AoE bow that uses 1 wisdom arrow. And if he has 2+ wisdom arrows, it becomes a 2-hit AoE. And if he has 3 or more wisdom arrows, the power is increased by 1.2. I'd also like to just say real quick about wisdom arrows before I continue on the kit. You can see is that wisdom arrows, the skills only consume what it says. The extra effects are based on the amount of wisdom arrows that Hujheb owns at the start of that turn. He does not consume the amount that you see on screen. He only consumes basically 1 for each of those skills that say so, except for 1 skill, which I'll get to later. Alright, so then his other base skill is that it's a 2-hit random target bow that uses 1 wisdom arrow. And if he has 2 or more wisdom arrows, it's a 4-hit bow instead. If he has 3 or more wisdom arrows, it becomes a 6-hit bow. He has a single ally, 10% physical attack, physical defense up for 2 to 5 turns. This skill does not consume wisdom arrows. If he has 2 or more wisdom arrows, target the front row instead. If he has 3 or more wisdom arrows, also grant 10% bow damage up if the target is a hunter. Then he has a 3-hit single target bow, uses 1 wisdom arrow. With 2 or more wisdom arrows, it'll also inflict a 10% physical resistance down for 2 turns. If he has 3 or more wisdom arrows, power 1 times 1.2, 20% stronger. Then he has another 3-hit single target bow that uses 1 wisdom arrow. And if you have 2 or more wisdom arrows, it becomes a 3-hit bow with AoE bow instead. And if you have 3 or more wisdom arrows, then power times 1.2. And then his 3-star skill is a front row 20% physical attack up for 2 to 5 turns that does not use wisdom arrows. And with 2 or more wisdom arrows, also grant a 20% bow damage up. And with 3 or more wisdom arrows, also grant a 20% SP cost reduction. So this is basically the Richard skill, but torrent formation, except that it also has 20% SP cost reduction. And so if you do use this with the 1-star skill, then you would be able to self-cap 30% active physical attack up and 30% active bow damage up for all your hunters in the front row. So keep that in mind depending on how your build is. For his 4-star skill, he has a 4-hit single target bow that uses 1 wisdom arrow. With 2 or more wisdom arrows, it also inflicts 15% physical and magical defense down for 2 turns. And with 3 or more wisdom arrows, it becomes a 6-hit single target bow instead. His 5-star skills, priority 4-hit AoE bow, uses 1 wisdom arrow. With 2 or more wisdom arrows, power increases by 20%. With 3 or more wisdom arrows, also inflict 10% physical resistance down for 2 turns. And then he has a 2-hit single target bow that also inflicts 10% bow res down for 2 turns. Uses 1 wisdom arrow. And with 2 or more wisdom arrows, the power increases by 10%. And with 3 or more wisdom arrows, the power is increased by 30% instead. His TP skill is a self 100% potency up for 2 turns, 50,000 damage cap up for 2 turns, and grant himself dead aim for 3 turns. This skill consumes all wisdom arrows, all of his wisdom arrows. Potency up cannot be extended. But see, as this skill consumes all his Windows arrows, this will trigger his 1-star passive to send him to 0, so then that immediately sets him back up to 6. So that allows him to do his nuking, as you'll see in a bit. Just so you're aware, because like basically with his wisdom arrows, it's like a balance of most of his skills that are normal skills that are using for shield shaving and stuff that aren't buffing skills will consume 1 arrow, and their best effects, like they'll become 6 hits, some of them, if he has at least 3 arrows, but once he has less than 3 arrows, then it's not as good. So you kind of want to have it to where once he's under 3 arrows, then that's when you want to use the TP skill or something like that to just drain them to 0, and then he goes back to 6 when you're setting him up to nuke, so you'll use his TP skill the turn before break if he's your main breaker. So kind of just, you have to play around with it. Moving on to his EX skill and ultimate technique. His EX skill has 2 total uses. It's an unlock from turn 3 and onwards, and it's a 3-hit single target bow that that it will also consume up to 6 wisdom arrows to add 1 extra hit per wisdom arrow used. So basically becoming a 9-hit bow if you have 6 wisdom arrows. So if you basically you want to use this EX skill, if you use your nuker, you use this like right after the TP skill to give him 100% potency up, which will drain his wisdom arrows to 0. Then it resets it to 6 because of his passive. Then he has all 6 arrows to use this with. And then you can use this EX skill back to back on break if you have Solon to give him potency up for the second turn of break, basically allowing him to do 18 hits on break. Because once this EX skill drains all his wisdom arrows, he's just going to get all 6 of them back. So that's how you set him up to be a Giga Bow DPS, by having him do that. Just thought I'd let you know. His ultimate technique is a damage class ultimate. It takes 4 BP to fully charge from level 8. It is called the Nightshade Arrow. It is a priority 1-hit single target bow that grants the following effects to all hunters based on how many are in the party for 2 turns. If there's at least 1 hunter, which there always is, 10% bow damage up. 2 or more hunters, 10,000 damage cap up, and 3 or more hunters dead aim. This scales to be even stronger at ultimate level 10, and the effects scale to 15% bow damage up, 50,000 damage cap up, and the dead aim does not change. An important thing to note is that this ultimate 10 does not gain turn duration. So because of this ultimate priority, I would say that if you don't have Kiln's ult 10, you would want to get ult 10 before Awakenings. But if you have ult 10 first, then you could consider getting A1 first for more damage, because like it's in a weird place. Like Hujheb's in a weird place, as in he is the best bow DPS in the game, except for Ochet on break, except for the Ochet's second turn of break. Technically, she's going to be a little bit better there with a 12-hit bow. But like overall, Hujheb's going to be able to pump out more damage. He can self 100% potency him up, so then you can use Solon on him. Ochet doesn't need Solon because she has self 80% potency, so they work well together. You know, spoilers again, like Ochet's great to work with Hujheb and kills. Like the bow teams are great now. That's the spoilers. Bow teams are good now. Crazy. But the thing about it is, for the ultimate bow damage up, because Kilns' buff is like all allies and everything like that, and especially because it's not attack, and eventually when ult 20 comes, you can cast it from the back row. Like, if you have Kilns ult 10, that's 20% active bow damage up and 3 turns of P attack up. So, like, that will stack with Hujheb's bow damage up. So, like, the dead aim's gonna run out if you don't, even if you have a buff extension A4, if you want Hujheb's, like, to give dead aim to other people, then he can't DPS himself because it only lasts 2 turns, 3 with the buff extension A4, so that if you use it the turn before break, he can't use his TP skill. So you kind of have to decide where you're wanting to do with support. If you don't really need the dead aim because hunters have good crit stats, or another way of getting dead aim, because to be fair, Hujheb isn't the best place. My point is, Hujheb's not the best place to get dead aim from if you want him to be a DPS, because you have to sacrifice, you have to choose what you want. So it's far better if he's your DPS to him have his TP skill before break and he ults early, and then use Kiln's ult to extend the bow damage up to cap at the 30%, and therefore you don't need ult 10 right away. It's complicated, but you have to kind of play with what you got. Moving on to his Awakenings and his A4 accessory, plus his exclusive accessory, because he is an SB unit, so that way he does get a free accessory. A1 is excellent to have for more base damage as a DPS, never a bad thing to have. Like I said, for the whole little spiel before, you have to kind of decide based on what your roster is, if you want his ult 10 first or not, like depending on your roster. A2 can be helpful, but he can do fine with just 3 skills. A3, HP is always good. His A4 accessory is actually it's called the Tainted Knight's Emblem. It gives 80 SP and 60 P attack. Itself 15% bow damage up, and if equipped by a hunter, all physical attacks can now exploit dark weakness. So for the A4 tier rating of this is a C tier A4, and yes, this is actually not good. It sounds good on paper till you dig deep. The stats on it are not great for DPS. 60p attack is on the low end. SP really doesn't matter because we have Shanna, and or you can manage your SP smartly. The bow damage up does not matter because if you have Kilns plus Hujheb will cap each other, and they will always be run together in a team if you have them both. Like, there's no reason you won't. Like, and for real, if you're also chasing this A4, you have Kilns. Like, come on. So that leaves the weakness X point. And this sounds great, except that when you think about it, this is only for 1 unit. So this isn't going to suddenly open a ton of options for more fights, because like, if you're running a bow team to use follow-up attacks and stuff, only 1 hunter is now going to be able to exploit dark. So, and hunters are not normally known for shaving shields that often on other weaknesses too often. I know Kiln's going to exploit lightning, and Ochet has the AoE skill that can exploit axe and stuff, but like, you're not going to, and lightning, but like, if it's not weak to that and you're trying to exploit dark with bow, then you're going to be limiting yourself for your overall DPS. When you look at the other options you have for exploiting dark, being Ring a Bell, Odio, who's getting Giga buffed in the future, Elrica when her 6-star arrives and she's really, really good again, Parties, holy crap, like, all of them can exploit darkness. You don't need a hunter to suddenly be able to do the same, to be completely honest, so you don't need this A4. Is it fun to use and it might lead to some funny clears and stuff like that? Absolutely, but you do not need it. That's what I'm trying to get across. His exclusive accessory gives 40p attack, so not that great. While in the front row, gain 10 SP regen, also not that amazing. But the gimmick is that at the start of the battle, gain 6 wisdom arrows. So this is actually one of the most useful exclusive accessories out of the bunch. If you're running him purely as a support and want to use a turn 1, use his buffing skill in order to have wisdom arrows right away. Otherwise, you can skip this and use a normal bow skill and immediately have 6 wisdom arrows ready to go turn 2. Because the gimmick is it's at the end of a turn if you have 0 wisdom arrows, gain 6. So he will actually start battles with 0 and not have any to use for turn 1 unless you use this exclusive accessory. So for specific speed clears or anything where you need him to have multiple wisdom arrows turn 1 for a buff, that's when his exclusive comes in use, and it's actually not terrible. So for an optimal skill loadout, skill 1, front row P attack, bow damage up buff. I mean, he's Bow Richard, bring this. Skill 2, 4 to 6 hit single target bow that also debuffs P-Def and M-Def. Shield shaving made easy, plus a bonus debuff. Skill 3, I would bring his TP self-potency up, damage cap and dead aim. If he is your main DPS, you need this. If he's only supporting, then you can take a skill 4, what's in skill 4 or something else. Skill 4, 10% P attack, B def, bow damage up. With Wisdom Arrows, this reaches 30% and lets Hujheb self-cap both buffs. Use this in skill 3 if you're running them as full support, or you can bring this along if you have a 2 and you still want to have other options like that. And if you're like running full support as well, then you could drop the TP self-potency up and bring like the 2-hit bow so that he does decent damage on break instead. So for unit synergy, so Bo Richard over here likes hunters. Crazy, right? So Kilns caps all passive buffs, passives with all passives with Hujheb, and he tanks and caps ult damage up and debuffs. Sorry about that. Ochet, Bow Breaker Extraordinaire, an extremely potent DPS for the second turn of break. Chloe, healing options for full bow teams at Hunter Tower. Herminia, great bow DPS after her buffs. Consider it. Zonta, still a decent bow DPS. Lucetta, pet stacking, and she is a hunter. Signa, you know why. Not a hunter, but like, you know why. Solon, ult potency up is still needed for Hujheb's second turn of break or whoever else is bow DPSing. And Shauna / Premix, Breach-In and BP options with Unsinkable or ult buffs the cap with Kilns for Premix. A lot of good options. So, whether you should pull or not to pull, plus how I would rate him. Long as bow damage been memed. No longer as Bo Richard or Bo Jesus, whatever you want to say, is here at last. Hujheb single-handedly massively upgrades bow damage into one of the current best options, and that's no joke. Being able to self-cap, P attack, and damage up, along with capping bow damage up with Kilns, is amazing. Ultimate bow damage up, to be clear. He can back-to-back 10-hit bow on break from massive damage when fully DPSing. Remember his follow-up attack. And if you don't want to use him as a full DPS, he can massively support and enable any other bow options now and those you release in the future. EX to Trana, anyone? He is fully usable out of the box to massively upgrade bow options at A0, so consider that if you really like hunters. As always, ignore pull advice if you love a unit and have full fun your way. For Tier 4, for free-to-play players, I would say Nier 2 and Hikari are really close. Like, probably Hikari is probably the 1.5 Annie in 2.5 weeks. And Nier 2 is, I would be willing to bet a lot that it's early on the next roadmap that's coming out soon. So, like, just be prepared. So I would say that if you're not plenty healthy on rupees, like 15k plus, you might want to skip unless you really love bow teams. For Tier 3, low spender passes, same deal, but A0 is plenty well if you like hunters. Dolphin, A0 ult 10 at the most. A0 is enough if you have Kilns ult 10, or if you get an extra one, A1. And then for Tier 1 Whale, A3 ult 10 at least. His A4 is memes, so only needed for collection purposes or silly clears. I mean, if you're that close, you might get it anyway, but I'm just letting you know for, like, if you're trying to get the most effective unit, you don't need his A4. If you want to save a little bit of money, if you got bad luck, you do you, though. Anyway, so I've been going on long enough, but this unit's really good. Crazy, right? Overall rating, DPS S. Not the best in the game, but it's really solid. It's pretty close to SS, but just not quite there. Support, SS. Amazing support options. No healing options, no tank options, so his overall tier, he is a solid S tier unit. Very, very good. Not like 100% must-pull meta, but you will love using this if you love using bow teams. He makes bow good again. He puts bow back on the map. So you'll have a lot of fun using him. I will be personally pulling for him as well, so check that out when I do my pulls. Otherwise, I hope everyone enjoyed the video. I hope it was really deep in-depth thought about Hujheb so you can decide whether you want to pull for him or not. Please let me know if you do pull for him in the comments below, and if there's any other type of content you'd like to see. I am trying to work on some other videos right now. It's just taking some time. Otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Please like, follow, and subscribe for more COTC content, and I will see you all in the next one. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Peace.